Welcome to the video tutorial about creating mobile app using Ionic Angular. I'm going to be showing you how to create a basic application. So let's start off by creating a new project in our command prompt. We simply need to type in Ionic start. And after pressing enter, we are prompted to enter a project name. I'm going to call it Code Swag Demo. And we are asked to pick a framework. I'm going to go with Angular. So I'll just press enter and we are asked to come up with a starter template. Let's go with blank, which is the simplest template that we can use. And now, our project is being created. So we just need to wait for a few minutes while this is done. Okay, so our application has been created. We're just going to clear our screen and let's navigate into the application folder. CD and want to code swag demo, and we are inside the project folder. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to open another command window. So let me just search for command or the CMD. And the reason is I now want to run the application in the browser. So again, let me just make sure that in this window, I am in my project folder. And when you are inside your project folder, you want to run the command Ionic serve. So this will start up a local instance of a node.js server and it will open your Ionic project in the browser. So there we go. And if we go to our Chrome DevTools, then we can see our application. There it is running. So now let's go back to our main command prompt window. And what we want to do in here is to type in code and a dot. And it's going to open the project in Visual Studio Code. So now in Visual Studio Code, we want to be switching back and forth from our browser to Visual Studio Code. And what we want to do is to make some changes to our application. So we need to go to source and app home, and we want to open home.page.html and home. No, we're going to only open home.page.html. So that is for now. And we can see that this is what we have in our application. So if we change our Ion title here, let's change it to codeswag.co.uk and we want to change this text a bit later. But let's see the result of these changes. So if we go up here, we'll see the codeswag.co.uk becomes the title of our app screen right here. So I want to get rid of this stuff, the default content. And then we're just going to have a completely blank screen. So let's head over the Ionic documentation so that I can show you how you can use it in your projects. If you open your web browser to ionicframework.com/docs, you'll see the Ionic Framework documentation. So we want to go to components, and this will give you all the UI components that are available in the Ionic UI library. The one that I'm interested in is the Ion card. So let's click here and we scroll down. Sorry, this is React. I want to go to Angular and it will show us the markup for the Ion card. So I want to copy the whole Ion card here. So let's go back to our project and we want to paste this in. So there we go. So I want to save this and go back to the browser preview and we can see we have our car. I'll be showing up there. So this looks a little bit boring. I want to add an image. So let me add the code swag logo. So what we want to do is go to File Explorer in Windows, and this is my project directory, and here's our project code swag demo. So if we go to the source and assets, and this is the folder that will contain the assets for our applications. So I'm just going to go over and copy the code swag logo that I have here. So now it's in the source assets of our project. So let's get back to the code editor. And back in the code editor, I want to add my image right up here. So I'm going to type in. Let me just put in an image. I have the Emmet plugin so I can quickly type in my mockup. So the source is going to be the assets folder /code swag.png. That's going to be our image, and I'm just going to put in all text of code swag logo. So if we save this, and let's head back to the browser to see the changes, and we can see we have our nice logo right there. So the front page is looking very good. Let's head back. I want to get rid of this subtitle, and in place of this, let me just add some custom text. So code swag.do. So I've just put in a little bit of information about code swag, and let me change the title up here. So this will be codeswag.co.uk as well. Let's review the changes. You can see everything is looking great. So this is our home page, and in this demonstration, I also want to show you how you can create other pages and link to those pages using the Angular router. So next, we want to head back to our command line, and in our command line, we want to type in the command Ionic generate page login. So this tells Ionic that we want to generate a new page and call it login. And when we press enter, it's going to run the routine and create a new page. Let's head back to the code editor. And in the code editor, when we open the file browser, we can see that there's this new folder called login. And inside the login folder, we have all the files that make up our new login page. So now let's open the HTML file. And we also want to open the TypeScript file. And if we close this and go back to our application, we see that we are still on the home page. That's because the home page is the default page for our application. So now, let's try to change our default page. So let's head back to the code. And back in the code, we want to open the File Explorer. Let's close this, and we want to open this file. App routing module.ts. After opening the file, let's close the panel, and we can see we have this constant called routes that has an array of objects. So each object here is representing a route or a page in our application. That's the default route. This is the route for the home page, and this is a new route that was created by the Ionic generate page command. So you can see that we have our login page there. So here in the default route, it says that if we have no path, we're going to be redirected to home. If we go back to our browser, we can see that if we just go to where the server is running, 81.01, we are led to the home page. We are redirected to the home page. If we have nothing in the URL, right. So let's change this from redirect to home to redirect to login. And as soon as we save this and we go back to our plain URL, you'll see we are now redirected to the login page. So now the login page is the default page for our application. Alright, great. Let's go back to our code editor. So in our code editor, let's close this. We no longer need that. I want to copy over this Ion card from the home page, and I want to put it in the login page. So I'm going to paste it here. And you can see Visual Studio Code has this annoying thing where there's like two tabs here and actually three at the bottom. So we can fix that by just highlighting and then pressing Control or Command and the left square bracket. So that's going to move everything over to the left. And let me do it one more time. I just like it when all my code is perfectly aligned. Let me just say that code that you Alright, save, and if we go back, we'll see that our login page now is a copy of our home page. But of course, we don't want it to be just a copy. We actually want it to be a login page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this stuff inside the content of our Ionic card and save and check it out. And all of that is gone. And I want to go back to the documentation. And here on the documentation, I want to look for an ion first of all. Let's see the ion items. So the ion item creates like a list for us. So if we go to Angular, you can see that we can have an ion item with the label and stuff inside. So I also want to look for an ion out input. Where's the input? Alright, ion input, right? So the ion input will create inputs. So what I want to do is have a login form. So if we scroll down, let's go to Angular, and I want to use this input with the placeholder. So let me copy that. And back to our code editor. First, I want to put it in ion item. So we have our iron item, and inside that iron item we are going to have the first input. So let me go back and do okay. Now I also want an ion label, so let's put our label right there. So this is going to be a username, and our placeholder text is going to be username. And let me save that and check it out in the preview, and we can see what we have that username field. Actually, it doesn't look so good with the ion label. So let me just remove that ion label and see what it looks like when it's alright. That looks great username. So the placeholder is also going to act as our label. So the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to copy this and paste it right below. And this is going to be our password. And there's a special attribute value here which is going to be type, and I'll put it in password again. So you will then see that we have our username and password. And you can see Chrome is already trying to fill in passwords. So we can tell that our login form is working great. We have one issue though, which is I want to demonstrate on password. So because we put in the type as password, you can see that anything that we type into here is going to be masked, right? Which is what we expect from passwords and forms. It seems a little bit tight here. So let me add some space by adding an HTML break. And you can see now we have a little bit more space. And that's great. Finally, let's add another break and let's create a button that we click on in order to log in. So I'm going to create an Ion button and the text in the button is going to be login. And here we have our nice login button right here. But if we click the button, nothing happens. Let's add a click listener, and when the buttons is clicked, we are going to run a method called logMeIn. This is going to be a method for the class for our page. So if you go back and we click, nothing happens, and we get an error saying logMeIn is not a function. That's because we haven't created the function. So for that, we need to go to login.page.ts, and inside our login page class, we need to create that method. So logMeIn. And there we go. So if we save this, even with nothing inside, if we save that and go back to our application and click login, we no longer get that error. But of course, nothing happens because there's no code inside. So let's put in the code for logging in the user. So I'm just going to put in a comment that says code for logging in user goes here. But since this is a very simple demonstration of our very first Ionic 4 app, I'm going to just simply log in the user no matter what username and password they put in, even if it's blank. So when we do that, we are going to say this .router.navigate. And of course, after logging in, we want the user to be taken to the home page. So they are going to navigate to /home, but I have this red squiggly line in this error telling me that the property router does not exist on the tab login page. And that is because we need to actually import the router. It comes from the Angular library. So let's go up here and say import. And we're going to import the router from at angular/router. And in our constructor, we are going to create a private variable called router, and it's going to be of the type router that we just imported up here. So this is the same thing, and you'll notice that the squiggly line has disappeared because this is now valid code. If I save this and I go back to the preview, doesn't matter what our username is and password is. This is just pre-filled by Chrome, and when we click on that, we are taken to our home page. So that's it for our simple demo application. We have seen how to work with Ionic cards, how to use the Ionic documentation, and how to use the router and to route between two different pages.